Hey, have you ever noticed that some businesses seem to grow effortlessly while others struggle, no matter how hard they try? The truth is, most businesses fail not because they lack good ideas, but because they use outdated random marketing tactics that don't actually move the needle. Kinda like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. But in business, hope isn't a strategy. For over 10 years, I've worked with businesses of all sizes, from solopreneurs to billion-dollar brands like Google, Meta, and Amazon, helping them implement marketing strategies that consistently drive more customers, more sales, and profit. So today, I'm handing you my proven playbook. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 10 powerful marketing strategies that not only work, but are battle-tested, scalable, and insanely profitable. Whether you're looking to get more leads or launch a new offer, or simply stop wasting money on things that don't work, this is going to be your go-to framework. And trust me, once you learn this, marketing will never again feel like a guessing game. So let's dive in. Most people focus on tactics first, thinking ads or social media or which platform they're going to post on. And they completely ignore probably the single most important element to all of your marketing success, which is the offer. In fact, just to show you how important the offer is, and of course, how that offer aligns with your target market, which we're going to talk about in just a second. There's even a rule for this that's been known for decades, if not centuries, known as the 40-40-20 rule. Here's how it works. 40% of the success of your marketing, of your promotion, of all that comes down to the market that you choose. Now, we're going to go into this in more detail in just a minute, but essentially, this just makes sure that we are selling the right things to the right people. That we've got alignment between whatever it is that you're selling and obviously the people that you're trying to sell it to. It doesn't make sense to be trying to sell steak to vegans, for example. The second 40% comes down to your offer. This is essentially what it is that you're selling and all the details that go into it. What's the price? What's the packaging? What's the promise? What does it deliver? What are the benefits again? The key to a good offer is making sure that it is relevant and irresistible to that target market. We don't need to make an offer that's irresistible to everyone. Not possible. Not even plausible. Not something we'd even want to consider. But how relevant, how irresistible is our offer to that market? And then the final 20% comes down to what we call copy. So this is copywriting. This is the words, this is the messaging, this is the actual images, the video, the presentation of it. How pretty does it look? How pretty does it sound? 20%, right? And yet, this is where most people start. They think about how am I going to say this? How am I going to sell it? What kind of video am I going to make? What kind of images am I going to choose? What platform am I going to put on all of these things? That's just the final piece of the puzzle. The fact is, if you get your market right, you figure out exactly who you want to sell it to, you get your offer right, making sure that it truly is irresistible. It alleviates pains. It provides quick wins. It's something they actually want. Well, then how you dress it all up, I don't want to say is irrelevant, because 20% still a pretty decent number, but it's just such an inconsequential number compared to the other 80%. So this is where we really have to focus. Now, before we talk about the target market or the ICA, the ideal client avatar, there's something we have to talk about first, which is setting clear, measurable goals, making sure that we're measuring the right things. After all, we can't just take our marketing and do a bunch of random stuff and hope that it pans out and makes a fortune when we don't know what we're actually tracking. So we'll talk about metrics now. Now, there's an old expression that I'm probably going to butcher here, but if you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there. But the fact is, if we don't have a clear destination, a clear goal in mind of where we're trying to go, then it doesn't really matter what marketing we're going to be doing. And more often than not, the biggest mistake that I see when it comes to setting goals and assigning metrics to them is businesses, entrepreneurs, marketers setting the wrong goals, measuring the wrong kind of metrics. Easiest example to explain. Here are something that I call vanity metrics. So these are things like likes and comments and shares, things that are perceived as good looking. They make you feel good because your post got some likes and got some views and got some shares and got some comments. But if that doesn't directly relate to revenue, to profit, to growth for the business, just wasting your time. This is why the holy grail of pretty much all marketing metrics is always going to be ROI. This is return on investment. How much did we spend? How much did we make back? Now, if you're running ads, sort of the complementary. Cousin to that one is called ROAS, which stands for return on ad spend. Essentially, how much are we making back after the amount of money that we spend? These are always going to be the primary metrics that you want to focus on any marketing campaign. Of course, these are those really top-level, high-level metrics, so we're going to probably want to break it down just a little bit more to make it more tactical, more actionable as we go through these. And this is where things like LTV come into play. This is lifetime value of a customer to your business. So take a look at just how much are they worth to your business over their entire lifetime. Normally, this is measured in profit. Some people measure it in revenue. I prefer profit. The other thing that you'll want to take a look at is CAC, which stands for Customer Acquisition Costs, or the cost to acquire a customer. How much do we need to spend, for example? If we're spending, say for easy math, $100 on Facebook ads, and it gets us 2 new customers or 2 new clients, our CAC is $50 per customer. So we take $100, we divide it by 2. Now we've got $50 per CAC for our Facebook ads. Same thing if we spend $100 on Instagram ads and gets us 1 client. Well, now we know that our CAC there is $100. Where this is important is as long as our lifetime value is higher than $100 for Instagram or $50 for Facebook ads, well, we're going to have a positive ROW ads or a positive ROI on our marketing, which means that we can now allocate more resources to those platforms, knowing that every time we put in $1, we're getting at least $1 or ideally more back out now. Other perhaps easier metrics to track that are in alignment with this? Certainly, if you're just getting started and you're not really sure about what these numbers are yet, is you could track leads per month. You could track conversion rates. If you're running either ads or even organic traffic, you could track even website visitors. But the closer you are to a metric that is in alignment with monetary value, revenue, money, things like that, the more valuable it's going to be. So we pretty much always want to focus there, and then we can reverse engineer if we need to. All. So this next strategy is more of a principle, more of a fundamental, and it is perhaps one of the most important things that I could ever hope to tell you, which is customers don't buy when they understand. They buy when they feel understood. And the only way to make them feel understood is to actually understand them. Do a little bit of market research, have some conversations with your customers, really get to know what I call their miracles and their miseries. So let's start with miseries, or let's start with miracles over here. Miracles are all of the good things that they want in their life. These are their hopes, their dreams, their wants, their aspirations, everything that they're trying to get to, their miseries. On the other hand, all the bad stuff, these are all of their fears, their nightmares, their pains, their problems, their frustrations, all the things that they're trying to get away from marketing is about connecting this. It's about creating a bridge. Let's use purple. It's about creating a bridge that helps customers walk away from miseries towards miracle. This is the goal of your marketing message right in the middle here. Everything we do is designed. There we go. Little sketchy, but it works. Everything we do is designed to help show our target market, our ideal clients, our ideal customers, that we understand where they're coming from, we get their pains and problems, and we have a solution. We have an offer. We have a product. We have a service. We have something that can help. And then our job is to simply help them connect the dots and move away from one side to the other. So we need to understand where they are right now and where they want to go so that we can frame our message and our offer and our positioning and all of our marketing in a way that clearly communicates that. But simply knowing what your customers' miracles and miseries are isn't enough if we don't manage to get in front of them, which is what this next part is all about. Here's the deal. Your audience, your ideal customers, clients, patients, members, whoever it is that's going to buy from your business, they're already online in different areas. It's your job to go out there and to find them and then to put your stuff in front of them. And this is where I see again so many business owners go so wrong is they'll hear about TikTok taking off, or Instagram Reels, getting new kinds of reach, or YouTube is a dominant platform, or Google search, or whatever it is, and they'll just go massively in that direction without any thought about, well, maybe my customers aren't there. Maybe they're actually on Snapchat or Pinterest or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever it is. The fact is, there's a lot of people everywhere, but there's going to be one or two or maybe three at most platforms where the vast majority of your ideal clients are present and active. So your job is to identify where that is and then go all in there and pretty much ignore everything else because it doesn't make sense to say, go fishing in a swimming pool when all the fish are over there in the lake or in the ocean or anything like that, unless you're fishing for people. But that's just weird. Now, the big players right now are still the same ones that have been here for quite some time. I'm talking about Facebook, I'm talking about Instagram, I'm talking about YouTube, possibly LinkedIn if you're more into B2B. But you really can't go wrong with Facebook, with Instagram, and with YouTube. TikTok is still getting some decent traction and getting decent impressions and views, but as a straight-up sales-generating tool, still not my first choice. We're going to talk about that more in just a minute when I'm going to break down some of the short-form strategies that we are seeing working well right now. But for now, let's write them up. Let's go Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Your audience is on one, or two, or all three of these platforms. Pretty much guaranteed. Doesn't matter who you're trying to go after. If you're going after a younger demographic, we can focus on, say, Instagram, a slightly older demographic. Let's use the age of 35 to 40 as our kind of dividing range. So if we're like under 35, let's say minus 35, we can go Instagram. If we're 35 plus, we'll go Facebook. YouTube really does span everything, so we're talking 18 to 65 plus, and you can kind of do all things there. Obviously, the barrier to entry with YouTube is the fact that it does require video. However, as we'll talk about in just a minute as well, video is probably worth paying some decent attention to. Again, I don't want to spoil the rest of this, but we'll get to that in a second. So your job is to figure out where they are, and then we can focus on creating content specifically for them on these platforms that speak directly to their pains, problems, fears, frustrations, helping them bridge the gap over to their miracles and where they want to get to. All right, let's talk about short-form video content. It's a topic that has been brought up countless times over the past couple years, especially as sort of TikTok came onto the scene. Their algorithm was dialed in better than pretty much every other platform. People saw massive amounts of growth. There was a lot of questions over sketchy business practices and data sharing, things like that, conversations that we're going to set aside for another day. Right now, we're focused strictly on the ROI generating capability of these platforms. One thing cannot be argued, and that is that short-form video content still gets more reach, more engagement, more likes, comments, shares, vanity metrics than pretty much any other platform out there. It is incredibly valuable. It is an important part of a strategy, but there's a caveat, and that is certainly, in my own experience with the clients that I've worked with my students and friends and colleagues, in that we've not seen it as a viable replacement to long-form content. So let's break that down real quick. On the left, we've got short form. So these are things like TikTok. These are things like Instagram Reels. These are things like YouTube Shorts. We'll just leave it there for now. Long form, on the other hand, I don't want to call them YouTube longs, we'll just call them YouTube videos. So YouTube videos, the main things that you think of when we're thinking of horizontal, longer videos that are longer than a few minutes. We've got podcasts, and those are kind of the main players right now when it comes to this YouTube videos or podcasts. Now, YouTube has some significant advantages over podcasts, the main one being discoverability. So a podcast is an absolutely incredible way to build just a whole nother level of trust with your audience. The problem is they don't have discoverability baked into podcasts really well at all. which means if you want to grow a podcast, you kind of need another platform to drive traffic to that podcast. Whereas YouTube has the search and the discoverability and the suggested videos and the homepage, all of that set in, which is why we're seeing so many people that are doing podcasting, also doing video podcasts. Because now they can actually get discovered. They can build an audience there. Now the thing is, I want you to think of short phone content like gasoline. There we go, sir. That's my best interpretation of a gas can. Short form content is gasoline. It burns fast, it burns hot, then it kind of disappears. The engagement that you get may be really, really good and it may look really good, but does this translate into sales? We're not so sure. We're not quite seeing it as much. Long form content, on the other hand, more like a piece of wood. There we go. This will be our wood campfire stuff. Ooh, that's sketchy wood. We're gonna go with it too. Long form like wood. So we can use gasoline to pour on the long form content in order to spark that fire, to get it going and to get it burning hot. But we're gonna need something with substance, something with material in order to keep that audience engaged and invested. And in order to build that relationship, establish that authority, show off your expertise, actually help somebody with it. And this is where something called Google's 7-11-4 rule comes into play. So let's map that out on a new piece of paper. This one's getting crowded. Google are old buddies at the search engine giant there. They did a little bit of research. They've got access to a good few billion people and the research and the touch points behind them. And what they found is that in order for someone to make a purchase, a few different things need to happen. The first of which is that person typically needs around 7 hours of content consumption, which I appreciate is an absolute ton of content, especially if you're just starting from scratch. But they found that for people to make a buying decision, this is the amount of stuff that they're going to need. 7 hours of content. Now, the beauty is, if we're sticking with something like long-form content, so you have a podcast and it's an hour-long episode, 7 episodes. On the other hand, if we're sticking with strictly short-form content, it's going to take some time. We're talking 7,000 different pieces of content. Certainly something we want to get to eventually, but maybe not something we want to start with there. Next, we need this 11 different touch points. What this means is that simply sitting down and binging for 7 hours may not be enough. They need to be hit a couple different times. So maybe these touch points take place all in a single day. Totally can happen. Someone wakes up in the morning and they start hitting all these different things and watching this video and going to that podcast and going over there and doing all these things. But we're going to need to hit them in multiple different spots. There's a ton of psychology behind this, not the least of which is called the mere exposure effect, which, fancy psychological term that says the more we see something, the more we like it. And then, of course, they want this 4 locations. Now, this is the only point that I've got a little bit of objection to, simply because qualitative experience from what we've seen firsthand, we can actually normally achieve this in 1, maybe 2 different locations. But what Google is saying is they want people to engage with content, or people need to engage with content 4 different places. So maybe they need to read a blog, watch a video, listen to a podcast, see a couple social media posts, maybe get an email from you. Whatever it is, they want it in a few different spots. We found that provided that we've got a good enough piece of long-form content, we can get this down to like 1 or 2 pieces of 1 or 2 touch points at max. Best example, highest converting channels that we've seen right now, if you're trying to keep this limited as possible and most effective as possible, is we will run YouTube videos that then go to email, and that's it. It's like a 2-step funnel. Run a long-form video on YouTube, ideally multiple. We still want to hit 7 hours if we can. 11 different touch points over time, but haven't seen the need necessarily for 4 different locations, because a YouTube video allows you to just provide so much value and help them so much in such a condensed short amount of time. And then, of course, we'll take them over to an email list, which is just one more touch point, typically where the selling will take place. So you can use YouTube as like that top of funnel strategy in order to get traffic, get attention, start getting clicks. Then we can transition them over to an email list, which further allows you to nurture them and to close them and to start making offers to help them further and to also grow your business. Okay, one more point about short form video, and we'll move on to the next one. And that is probably the single biggest addition that we've made to our strategy internally for our agency and our clients. And that has been this comment to lead automation that we've set up with our short form video. So here's how this works. And it took our lead gen from, say, 500 to 1,000 leads a day up to 5,000, 6,000 leads a day strictly from organic social media content, no ads, not spending a dime, generating 5,000 to 6,000 new leads a day, which even for me was like, we haven't seen an increase like that in forever. Like it was massive. And I'm attributing most of it to this sort of automation that we've set up, which is very simple to do. I'll show you exactly how to get it done. Basically, what ends up happening is we will post on social media. Typically, this is going to be done through Instagram and Facebook, which have the greatest ability to not only tie in the software that allows us to go from comment to lead, but also just the most massive reach. And again, then we can hit our audience depending if we're going for under 35 or age 35 and older. So we'll make a post. That post will have a CTAA call to action, and it will say, comment some word below. So let's just say comment, start below. Then what happens when somebody down in the comments below that post comments start, it triggers an automation which automatically responds to that comment saying, hey, awesome, thanks so much. Or I just sent you a DM. We can use AI to automatically populate these responses. Or we can just pre-fill them with a whole bunch of different random responses like, thanks so much, check your DMs, this is great, whatever it is. So what ends up happening is we comment. So the AI comments, I should say, we don't do anything.ai comments, and AI sends DM, and in the DM, the direct message, we are able to start a conversation. We're able to send an opt-in form. We're able to encourage a sale. We're able to nurture. We're able to connect it with a sales team or a setter or a calendar or pretty much anything. And this, like I said, I know the word game-changing gets thrown around far too often, especially in the world of online and marketing and stuff. But this has really been a game changer. You can see it in action in most of my Instagram posts and reels that comment. Start below, we'll send you a free guide or this thing or that thing. Someone will make the comment, the AI will respond, we'll send them the DM. This all gets taken place and the software takes over. It's all done through High Level. High Level is a paid software, but I've got a link down in the descriptions below that'll get you access to an extended 30-day free trial for it. Also, I believe in that, actually. I'll make sure it happens, but we've got a copy of this exact comment to lead automation as well. So you just have to copy and paste it, and it'll be instantly installed in your account, and like I said, took our leads up to 5,000 to 6,000 a day, consistently just by using this. So like I said, game changer is a bit of an overly hyped word, but it's been pretty powerful, so worth checking out. Okay, next we've got to talk about the death of SEO, and the death of Google. Now again, speaking of things that get tossed around far too often, the death of this, the death of that, the death of video, or the death, these things are often blown out of proportion and used for simple marketing headlines in order to get people to click. This is one of those times, though, where it's not the death of SEO, it's the transition of SEO and how search engine optimization is done and performed. So, let me break this down. Essentially forever, we've had Google, and Google was the main search engine that everybody knew and everybody loved and everybody used. This was this way up until relatively recently when other platforms have started to take away some of that search traffic, not intentionally by going out there and saying, we're going to steal from Google. But just by the nature of consumer behavior, user behavior, how people interact with different platforms. For example, if one of the top other search engines is actually Amazon, Amazon gets an absolute ton of search traffic. Not only does it get search traffic, it gets search traffic from people with buying intent. People rarely go onto Amazon to just browse for things or learn things. They're there to buy something. So this is incredibly powerful. Not only that, Facebook, Instagram, let's put IG here. Those guys, they're starting to get a ton of search traffic. People looking for different keywords, different terms, different topics. And back in the day, hashtags were more relevant. We kind of needed them in order to navigate different terms. Now that's not so relevant. The algorithms are so good at crawling through the content. They can figure out what something is about, what someone is searching for. They know more about you than you know about yourself, which is creepy, but that's another topic for another day. But all of these other platforms are starting to take away. Search share. There's another one though that's even more powerful, ChatGPT. If you've not done this yet, I encourage you to give it a try. It's a little bit scary. I started doing this almost as a bit of a test, and now it's quickly become a habit and like the core part of a lot of my search strategies, depending on what I'm looking for back in the day, as in a few months ago. We would go to Google and let's say you're looking up for something like, what is the fastest way to learn how to play a C chord on the guitar? And you'd go to Google and you'd type in learn C chord for guitar for beginners, and it would give you a whole list of different ideas. It would give you ads for guitar courses. It would give you Google Maps listings with all the local guitar teachers and music academies. Then it would give you all of the organic listings below, and there'd be, say, 10 on the first page. There'd be 10 on the second page, and 10 on the third and the fourth. And it would go on forever, and you could click through different tabs. And if you're anything like me, you might have 47 different tabs open trying to figure out where to go and what to figure out and what to learn. And it's overwhelming and it's exhausting. Now what you can do is you can go to ChatGPT and you can say, what's the best way to learn a C chord as a beginner? And it'll just tell you. It'll go scrape all the data it has access to. Everything. It'll put together what it thinks is the best. If you don't quite like it, you can talk back and be like, yeah, I'm actually looking for something a little more complicated. Or what about C7th? Or what about C minor? Whatever it is, and it'll give you more instructions and more ideas. You can ask it for sources and for references, and it just gives you the answer. Now, the quality of that so far has been really good. It's only getting better, and it's sort of making things a whole lot easier for people to find information. The takeaway point is this. SEO search engine optimization is not dead, but Google's market share has decreased massively. Whereas like Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, which owned by Google, but we'll talk about that in a second. Specifically ChatGPT is going up massively, so there is a huge opportunity for you to start making sure that you're using the right keywords, the right terms, the right topics, the right ideas for your market and for your industry in order to make sure that you're ranking for these terms. Again, what does this come down to? Comes down to knowing your target market, knowing your ideal customer, knowing their pains and problems and fears and frustrations, knowing what words they use, knowing the things that keep them up at night, because then you're able to bake that into your content so when they have a problem and they're going out there looking for a solution, it's you and your content and your business that shows up first. You need to make sure that you identify what you're going to talk about. You need to make sure that if you're going to practice anything, it's going to be the introduction in order to make sure that you clearly hook someone. And then, of course, make sure that you have a call to action at the end. If we're talking about short-form video, it's going to be to comment below in order to get XYZ free resources. This is time well spent, and it'll make sure that your video creation just becomes infinitely more effective and more fun and valuable. Now, if you want to go even deeper, I've linked up a video right here that's going to introduce you to some of my most proven and profitable marketing strategies that are guaranteed to grow pretty much any business. So feel free to tap or click that now, and I'll see you in there in just a second.